Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Wednesday Flash Briefing. I'm Verl Workman, your host, CEO of Workman Success Systems, and I'm excited to have you all here today. Thanks for joining us. We have an incredible guest today. We have not just a smart guy, but one of the smartest guys that I know when it comes to investment and really creating significant net worth. I'm excited to welcome a good friend of mine, Joel Block. Joel, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Verl, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So Joel and I have been in the same circles running around at real estate conferences and the National Speakers Association for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. Joel, has it been maybe even more than that?
Time flies, doesn't it?
It does.
But no matter how fast, it's Verl, I'll tell you, no matter how fast it flies, you're still looking good.
I just fly slower over time.
Yeah, well, listen, me too.
I like to say we don't get older, we just gain equity.
That's sounds like rationalization to me, but I like it.
It totally is. So let me give everybody. Actually, Joel, I can introduce you, but I would love you just to tell us a little bit about you and your background. I think that's more interesting. So tell us a little bit about where you come from.
I've been in the venture capital and the hedge fund businesses, doing real estate and other kinds of deals for really my entire career. I started in the CPA business. Learned this business as a young CPA doing tax work for guys that were doing deals. And I thought, I don't want to be a tax doer. I want to be a deal maker. And I left the tax business and I just went out and figured out how to make deals, how to raise money, how to syndicate properties. And, several years ago, set up a hedge fund and, we buy distressed assets. And that's what I've been doing mostly for the last many years.
I mean, you've also created and sold companies. Tell me about your selling you to a Fortune 500, what that process was like.
Yeah, well, so I started at Price Waterhouse. I was there for a couple of years, started a real estate syndication firm, and real estate kind of started to go down starting, like, let's say 1990. And I get a phone call from a guy in 1990, and somebody I'd known in college, and the guy says, hey, can you help me learn the stock market? And I said, gee, yeah, happy to do it. Here's what you do. Write down some stocks. And at the end of the week, we'll talk about how they did. A couple of days later, the guy sends me a fax. Now, in 1990, fax was pretty new. He sends me this fax that had my stocks at the top, my name at the top of the page, my stocks down the side, and the prices for the stocks that I had picked right next to them. And I thought it was kind of a cool thing. And then the second day I get it, and the third day I get it. And finally, I called the guy up and I said, what is this thing? This is amazing. He said, I put it in the computer just for fun. I thought it would save time. I said, this is amazing. Every investor in America is going to want to have this. And because I knew how to raise money and I had, the skills, I said to him, listen, this is a business. We have to do this together. I'll go out and get us some money. I want you to work on this full time. And I kind of spotted some money to get it going. I want you to work on this full time. And so sure enough, I went out and I got $10 million from a company who wanted to participate in this. And I went to Wall Street and I sold them my idea. And I got one of the biggest wirehouses on Wall Street to write a check that was so big, the investor got all their cash back in 6 months.
Wow.
So, listen, and that's kind of how it started. And then I just traveled around the country and sold it to newspaper companies who could run it. And I told them, this is going to replace your stock pages in the newspaper. And 35 of the biggest newspapers in the country did it. And it was quite a ride.
That's such a fun story. And it's great to have that on your resume when you're out raising capital.
Well, it serves me well in a lot of ways, but what it really says is that I was forward looking. What we were talking about is collapsing the amount of time it took for somebody to get their information. So ordinarily, they would have had to wait till tomorrow to read the paper, but we collapsed it, to not till tomorrow, but like a half an hour from the markets closed. So we were able to get people their stock prices within a half an hour, and that just that collapse has continued to happen, where people want things faster and faster and faster, and we are right at the forefront of that.
That's so cool. So I want to encourage our listeners, as you come onto the call today, say hello to Joel and tell him where you're from. And also, if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the comment boxes. You have questions for Joel. All right. So Joel, just kind of a fun note, and I didn't know this about you, but tell me about playing professional blackjack and what that has to
I don't even remember giving you all this background information, but when I was about 20, I went to a blackjack seminar. Well, actually, I had learned to train my memory. I read some books on having a trained memory, and I learned how to memorize a deck of cards. Where you could take out 5 cards out of a deck, and then I could look at the other 47 and tell you what was in your pocket. And that's, that's not a trick. I mean, it's a skill. And by the way, I can't do it now, by the way, because I'm out of practice. But I thought, if I could do that, I could probably play cards. I could probably play blackjack. And I went to a blackjack seminar, and I met a guy, and the guy said, do you want to buy the seminar that you just attended? And I said, no, I'm not buying the seminar. I said, I already know how to do it. He says, well, what do you mean you already know how? I said, I could already count cards. He says, oh, really? How fast can you count a deck? I said, I can take out 1 card, look at the other cards in the deck in 18 seconds. He said, yeah, that's pretty good, for a beginner. He says, I do it in 7 seconds. And I was like, oh, this guy was my hero. He just became my hero like in a second. And he took me under his wing, and he taught me blackjack and advanced strategies. And we were going to Vegas all the time. And I wasn't even 21 years old. And truthfully, I knew about myself. If I didn't stop playing blackjack, I probably would have dropped out of school, and it really would have taken my life in a bad direction. I mean, I just felt it, but it was so exhilarating and fun, and and beating the casino is an amazing thing. And blackjack's a beatable game, but here's how they get you. Here's the trick, is that it's only beatable by a tiny number of people. You have to really have a level of expertise that very, very few people are willing to achieve. So if you're a casual player that learns a little bit about blackjack, you're still going to lose. But the few people that win are the people that get all the other people to come and lose. And it's an amazing phenomenon.
I mean, did you actually win some money? Did you win some serious money?
I mean, listen, I was a kid. I had a very tiny bankroll, but I was on a team. And what would happen is that I would sit, and play $5, and then the big man, and that's what the strategy was called. It was called the big man. I'd give it when my table got hot, and I knew the cards were going to come out, were going to go in our direction. I'd do a signal, like I do like this. The big man would come over, and he'd plunk down $1,000, and then I would give him a hand signal on how to play the hands. And that's how that was played. You can't really do that so much because now that you can't enter mid shoe and the other stuff, but that was just part of what we did. It was an exhilarating thing to be part of a team. It was incredible to play by yourself. But what was incredible, it was that I could learn a skill and activate the skill and do the thing and really make it work. And that was really kind of an early thing for me. And it was it proved a lot about my ability to learn and make something happen.
So this is just my Verl curiosity, but how have you applied the skills or the systems you've learned into business and business success?
Well, believe it or not, I just added a little segment about blackjack into one of my keynote speeches, where I teach an audience how to count a deck, because ultimately it's part of a system. That you got 52 cards in a deck, but all 52 cards are not equally important. There's really only I call it, it takes 2. And that's really, you got to break the deck down. So you're only keeping track of 2 things. And if you can keep track, because nobody keep track of 52 things, let alone when you multiply it by 6 decks or whatever it is. So, but really in blackjack, you're only keeping track of 2 things. And if you can break it down into 2 things, everything else is simple. So really, I'm very, very good at rules of thumb and breaking things down into very small increments and very tiny little things like, this or that. And if you can break things down into very small increments and the rest, then it works out. And even though I have very good number sense and I was trained in numbers and all my stuff, I use rules of thumb, and I'm very, very quick. Because if I can come within $1,000 or something, on a millions of dollar type of situation, if I can use a rule of thumb and just kind of take a guess that gets me inside of $1,000, I mean, that's as good as me sitting at a calculator all day long.
So I love that. And I think it applies to just about everything. We do a lot of real estate teams. That's our focus, is helping, real estate teams. And we focus on so many things, and it becomes, you don't get good at any of it. But if we can break it down into 1 or 2 things, this or that, and if you're not doing this, you need to be doing that, then we get success a lot faster. That's a brilliant principle. I've never thought it in those terms.
Yeah, well, I'll show you how it works one of these times. And the other thing is that sitting at a table where my job was to play the hands and bet $5, and then give the signal to the big man when he would come over. I had a job on that team, and that job was incredibly important. And everybody on a team has an incredibly important job, because if you don't do your job, then the whole team is going to underperform. And so every single person has to do the best they can to make the team the best they can. So if you're working with teams, that's a good message for teams.
I love that. Okay, so Joel, when you get hired to speak, when people hire you to come in and talk to their audience, what is your favorite message? What is it you like to teach? What are you
Well,
passionate about?
I spent the majority of my life in the venture capital business. So even though I'm in real estate, I always loved the venture business, because venture is all about disruption, and disruption's a funny thing. The people in the venture business, and really venture capital, the real name for it is called innovation finance, because what we do is we find ideas and we finance those things. And that's the business I really was in for a long time. And starting with my own deal that I invented, got funded. And then when I sold that company, I've funded and done other deals. And now I've got a fund and I just buy things and do things with it. But uh, I love to talk about disruption, strategies for disruption. And the thing about the disruption business, people in Silicon Valley, they blow each other's companies up just for fun. I mean, they do it for sport. And there are companies out there, and young people in garages are aiming torpedoes at these companies every day. And these companies have no idea what's about to happen to them. And, my goal is to help these companies to wake up to what could be disruptive that other people are doing, and what could be disruptive that they could do. And there are dozens of different strategies. And I'm working on a new book on this exact topic called Disrupt Your Competitor's Future. Because I just believe that, we all can play offense. We don't have to play defense. And that's the core message.
I have so many questions that go down that train of thought, and just even in my own, even in my own business, you see so much disruption happening in the real estate vertical, and all of the different types of business models that have come out there, and what the consumer is demanding, and what Zillow does to the marketplace. And I think of the people that are legitimate disruptors didn't start out being that way, but they've become, forces to be reckoned with.
Well, I will tell you that the NAR and the multiple listing service, which has done a great job for probably close to 100 years, and they've fended off a lot of competitors over the last 25 years. I think they're finally starting to lose their grip. I think they really now, Zillow has broken through. There's a lot of money. These venture funded companies, the CoStar deal now that's just happened, is really going to change the playing field. Um, I don't think that it's going to disintermediate brokers. Brokers always are necessary. People always need help, and they always need information, and brokers are the ones that have that information. So I don't so much think that they're at risk. The weaker ones will always be at risk. The good ones will always survive, and will always do deals. Certain sectors, the commercial sector and industrial sector, are probably going to be weak for a while here now, but the residential sectors are going to continue good. In fact, I actually think, looking at this whole pandemic problem, I think there's going to be a tremendous migration from urban to suburban, or even more remote suburban. So I think that the brokers who are working in those territories are probably going to be busier than ever. They
It's
need
funny
to
you said
grow.
that. I just finished interviewing a lady, Julie Till, out of Texas, that works on does lakefront property. She's had inventory that's been on the market for years. Starting in May, started getting multiple offers, and these lakefront properties have just sold out. She says it's nuts. She went from 220 homes last year to over 400 lakefront properties sold this year. And so
Well,
that's a
if you
big,
stop, if you stop and think about it,
yeah.
there's so much unrest in the country that people want to go to places where there's not going to be so much. They want to go to places where there's not so much sprawl.
Yeah.
They want to go places where they can uh, be more relaxed. And by the way, this digital transformation, the whole remote thing, um, if we can work remote, then maybe where we live isn't so important. So it changes the face of real estate. People continue to need real estate. Commercial is a totally different discussion. We can talk about that, but because I make a lot of predictions, and part of what I do is I look forward in time. But for the residential brokers, um, they will continue to be necessary, but I think they have to continue to be committed to upping their skills. People who have weaker skills are going to be washed out. People with better skills are going to be more in demand and more necessary. And every professional person has a responsibility to continue upping the ante.
You're speaking to the choir. It's when you're good at the business, it attracts more business. When you're not good, you run out of friends and family and you go away.
Well, let me tell you, Tim, one of the things that we talk about is that money follows expertise.
Yep.
The better you are at something, the more money will follow you. And you have to be great at it. Now, you got to have a great personality. That's true. But there also has to be some stake there. You can't be all sizzle. And you really, or an empty suit. You really have to be able to, give people good, solid advice. And if you can't do all those things, then get on a team with people who can help you to do that.
I think everybody should be on a team personally, because I think that when you have the combined intelligence of a group, you're better off, and you can have expertise in different levels or areas.
I'm 100% with you. 100%.
Yeah. All right. So Joel, I'm thinking about, so one of the reasons I invited you on this today, and this has been in my mind for a long time. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about this for a long time, but there's been this tremendous amount of influx of capital into real estate. You've got iBuyers, Zillow Offers, Open Door, OfferPad, all these companies that have gone out and raised Wall Street money. And then they're coming in and they're buying real estate at a discount because the consumer has spoken to the marketplace and said, hey, the process of selling a house is a hassle. And I have equity in my property. Therefore, I'd rather just sell it quickly without the hassle and take a discount on it than try and retail it and maximize it and go through the hassle of doing it. And our real estate agents and our teams that are savvy and have a little bit of capital become their own best client. So they go into the house to list the property and they'll say, I'll give you some options. Here's your Zillow offer. Here's your iBuyer offer, or I'll make you a local offer and we can buy it right now, or I'll put it on the market and you can retail. It doesn't matter to me. How would you like to move forward? And so, but a lot of agents don't have the ability or have the funds to be able to be their own iBuyer or have their own buying arm. And I'd like to talk to you about that. And how do we create that in this marketplace and serve our clients and give them the ability to do that at a higher level?
Let me tell you that about 10 or 11 years ago, I got a call from an executive at Marks and Millichap, which is they're the largest commercial broker in the country. And this executive said, listen, we found you on the internet. We know you're an expert in raising capital and setting up funds and doing these things. Would you come to a conference for us on how to raise capital to buy real estate? And we did this conference, and it turned into what is now our syndication hedge fund symposium. And basically, we are the preeminent trainers of people who are real estate buyers. We don't teach them the real estate. We teach them the money. But I'm going to tell you, the money is not made in the real estate, by the way. And this may surprise people, especially people who are in the real estate business. But the money is not made in the real estate. The money is made in the money. Because if you control the money, you can buy all the real estate you want. And one of the problems that brokers have is that they don't have, in most cases, the capital to really take advantage of everything that they know. Here's the irony. These are the people who know more about real estate than anybody.
Right.
And they really don't make hardly any money. They make a little nick on their brokerage, and that's not to disparage anyone or anything else. But these are the people that have the most knowledge about what's going on in the marketplace. You would think that they would be buying real estate like crazy. But if they don't have the capital, they don't have the capital. So basically what we do is we help these guys that are doing fix and flips, and even a lot of the people that run these TV shows. And we've had a lot of celebrity type guys come to us, and we build their funds. We help them organize the structures that they need to go out and raise some capital. And we help them learn what the capital raising rules are. We set it up. We tell them how to find investors, how to talk to investors, how to get organized. And the people who've taken our programs we've probably spawned more than 100 funds and probably 150 syndications. And our people have raised probably close to $1 billion. So we've put a lot of people in business. I mean, a lot of people are making a lot of dough. And I would tell these brokers, be your own client. I mean, it's an incredibly important concept. And here's the way that this works. Let's say you set up a fund and you get some investors. You go find, let's say 10 people, each one puts in 100 grand. So they got $1 million. And you go and you find a property. Well, so the first thing that you got to do is you got to have a broker. You got to hire a broker to go buy the property, because this is an LLC that you're buying for. Your fund is going to be an LLC. So you got to have a real estate broker. Well, what real estate broker should you have? Should you go in the yellow pages to find one? No, if you're a real estate broker, you're probably going to be the best one for your deal, right? Because you've got all the deal flow, and you build into your documents that you're the broker of record. And, Verl, I know you're great at teaching people this, but I'm going to tell you something that even you can't teach them. And that is, so they lock down the property now. They fix it, flip it, whatever their strategy is going to be. They fix it. They turn the rents on, whatever they do. And 5 years from now, they sell the property. Well, how would you like to have a listing agreement for sale 5 years in the future?
Absolutely.
If you're the broker of record, that's it. You're done. You've got a contract to sell that property. You're the buyer on the buy side now. You're on the sell side. And by the way, your real estate license is probably in most states going to let you be the property manager. If you're properly licensed, you can be the mortgage broker. You can run you can take a construction management fee for oversight. And the reason investors are okay with this is because they have to hire some real estate broker, might as well be you. They got to hire some mortgage broker, might as well be you. If you're properly qualified, competent, licensed, or whatever, if you're a GC, a general contractor, if you're properly licensed and you're going to do the repair, why wouldn't they hire you? I mean, they gave you their money. They want you to do the best job. You have the best interest of the partnership, at heart. They want you to do the best you can. And by the way, they don't want you to run out of money. See, the difference between a syndication and fund and like a one-off deal you do with somebody is the one-off person, they may want to take advantage of you, push you out of business so that they can take over your share. But the documents are so much more sophisticated in a syndication environment, they can't push you out of the way. The documents are too strong. And so you just don't have a lot of the problems when you do it the right way. I'm going to tell you, I didn't make this up. I mean, this is what I learned at Price Waterhouse as a youngster. This is the way that Wall Street does it. This business is 50 or 60 years old. I'll tell you that the IRS doesn't like it too much, but the Supreme Court of the United States has said that it's a legal business. The legislators in Congress and the Senate, they all understand it. There's not a wealthy person in the United States that doesn't understand how these deals work, because they all invest in them. This is, generally speaking, the way that wealthier people invest. It's called a private placement. You got two kinds of deals. You got public, and the word place, by the way, means sell. So when you're selling a stock, you're placing the stock. That's where it comes from. So you got public ones, which is like AT&T and the other big stocks, and you got private. Well, of course, wealthy people have their money in some mutual funds or wherever they keep their money, but they also like these private deals. But a private deal needs a quarterback. Somebody has to run the deal. And it's not going to be the rich guy. The rich guy just wants to put the money in so that person can keep playing golf. But for us, it's an enormous opportunity to generate fees, participation in profits, and everything else. Plus, when you go in with a fund and you have the money, who's buying at the lower price? If you go in and say, I'll give you $1 million for the property, I'll be back in 6 months with the money. And I walk in and say, tell you what, I'll give you 800 grand, but I'll give you the money within 2 weeks. You as the seller, the seller's going to say, well, I don't want to take 800, but how about 8.25? And I'll beat you every single time, and I'll save $175,000 out of thin air just because I was ready. So those are some of the big points.
Those are there. It's fascinating. It sounds a little bit complicated. How hard is it for a small entrepreneur? Say you're maybe running a real estate team and you've got a little bit of capital, but not a ton to create a fund like that.
Well, creating the fund, that's the part we help you with. I mean, we help you do it. We kind of show you how it works. It's a little bit of a different skill, but it leverages the core skill that you have of being an excellent deal sourcer. I mean, if you don't have real estate skills, if you don't bring enough to the table, then I can't help you. And I screen everybody before we let them come in and get involved with us, because that's why our success rate is very high, is because we don't allow people who are beginners, junior wannabes to get involved with us. I mean, if you don't have enough,
right,
you don't bring enough to the table, we just can't. And it's not a money thing. It's that if you don't bring the deals, and funny enough, there are a few other people that do what we do, that do these trainings, and they'll call up and, Joel, is it true that you turn people down? Well, we do sometimes. Could we buy your turn downs? And I'm like, no, we can't buy our turn downs. But
They're more they're more likely to fail with someone else than with someone who actually cares about them. I'm curious for my listeners, as the people are on Facebook Live, it'll take a little bit of a pause, but like, if how many of you are actually interested in learning how to set up funds and how to actually raise capital so you can buy more real estate? I personally am, Joel. Like, I want to be more involved, but I want to have the buying power of more than just myself. I want to be able to have greater buying power. I think that with that grading buyer power, it creates different levels of opportunities.
well, Verl, think about this. Um, this is a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
No single person has all the money that they need to do everything that they want to do. And that's why corporations, are owned by thousands and thousands of people. They all put their money together. And then together, there's a quarterback, a CEO of a company, a board of directors, whatever. There's a group of people that are in charge of deploying the capital for many, many people. And that's the way our whole society works. So there's nothing new or unusual, or we didn't invent some new fangled crazy thing to do here. The fact that many of these people who've been real estate brokers that have been dancing around this, they probably have clients that operate this way, but they may or may not even know that. So even if they don't do it themselves, they should really understand how their clients operate, because their client, if somebody asks you to reduce your commission, that might be because they're going to take an override as part of their deal. And it would be very valuable for you to know how these deals work on the inside. It's not near as complicated as it sounds. I mean, there's some moving parts and there's some things that people are nervous about, but it's like driving a car. When you're 14 or 15 years old, you're nervous. It's terribly scary. But you know what? You take a class, you take driving lessons, you practice with your folks when you're 15 years old. You go to the DMV when you're 16, and you take your test, and then by the time you're 17, you're shaving, putting on lipstick, you're combing your hair, and you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, but you get so comfortable doing it that no problem at all.
Right.
That's very similar to this. Of course, it's a new skill. It's a little bit scary at first, but I'll tell you what, the people who make the most money are the ones that are willing to stretch out of their comfort zone and do something a little different. Because imagine if you had $1 million, $3 million, $5 million of money in the bank that you could just go and draw on and buy whenever you wanted. And by the way, these deals give the syndicator usually get discretion, so they can pick what they want without having to go back and ask permission. And we build that all into the documents. It's all set up. And this is a legitimate business that people understand. Dr. Smith doesn't want you calling all the time, bothering him or her, because he or she might be in surgery all the time, busy, and they want their money to work as hard as they do.
Interesting. So I hope that you don't mind the questions that I'm asking, because I feel like my personal curiosity translates to other people and how they're how the questions that they might have. But one of the things that I'm seeing in the marketplace right now, in the market that we have, where we have limited inventory, and you brought this up, you said, okay, who's more likely to get the home? The FHA buyer that has an FHA appraisal and contingencies and all this stuff, or a cash buyer that comes in and offers 99% of the value, even 100% of the ask price, that can close in less than 30 days. And it's created an unfair marketplace to regular mom and pop, first time home buyers, second time home buyers, move up buyers, because they're competing with the cash buyer that has the capital to go in and close quickly. How do we utilize some of the things or principles that you teach to put our buyers in a position of power when it comes to negotiating in a multiple offer situation where we have to wait for mortgages?
Well, let me tell you that I tell my children, the concept of fair is sort of a kindergarten concept. As long as you're playing by the rules, there are people who are better organized than other people. They're just better organized. And if you've got the money in advance, that makes you better organized. There's nothing fair about or unfair about being better organized than other people. So, you really need to have your ducks in a row. If people need to buy with debt, make sure it's good debt that works. And unfortunately, people who are coming in at the beginning, they're not the people that are going to get the very best deal. It's unfortunate, but they're not. And they got to earn their way into the system. And, and that's just kind of how it goes. But, listen, they'll get their day in the future, and they'll get reorganized. So, it's the way that it works.
So how do we become better prepared and serve our clients that don't have the ability to with capital. I mean, is there funds out there that will do short-term lending to allow people to get in and be more competitive in a hot market like we're in right now? So
Well, there are, but those kind of deals tend not to be very cost effective.
yeah,
If you're, I mean, if you need the money fast, then they're somehow gonna take it out of your hide in some way. That might mean that they require a bigger down payment. I mean, the people you're talking about are probably coming in with a kind of a skinny down payment to begin with. They're needing a little bit of extra support from a bank, and those banks are federally overseen, and they need to have some.
right.
I don't really operate at the brokerage level, so I can't really help that. What I do is I take people with those brokerage skills, these top brokers that are really willing to, you know, that really understand that they want to build wealth and not just make a living from brokerage. And these things are not mutually exclusive. They can do both. So, those people though, I can help them a lot. Unfortunately, I can't really make them better brokers. But what I can do is I can help them see that their brokerage skills can be leveraged into something magical that they aren't doing right now.
There's not a lot of wealth building that happens in the real estate industry by agents and brokers. They help other people build their own wealth. When they're done, they quietly go away off into the sunset without anything for retirement. So
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir. I when you said I think you should be your own best client, I say that all the time. And that if you're not buying real estate and you're not investing and you're not doing things to build real wealth, then all you've done is create a job for yourself.
Well, but understand something. If you buy real estate with your own money, you're not your own client because you're not charging brokerage fees. You're not charging mortgage fees. You're not charging anything. When you use other people's money and you build a fund, now the fund is going to hire you to be their real estate broker. They're going to hire you to be all the other services that the fund needs that you're capable of supplying. So I get where you're going with it,
Hmm.
but to be very fair, what I'm talking about is the real deal, and it really works that way. And that's, I mean, listen, Wall Street didn't create this methodology because it's inferior to how everybody else does it. I mean, they built the best methodology that there is. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been in this business for a long time, and and I share what I know with other people, and have helped a lot of people make a lot of dough.
So give me some steps. Like, so if I wanted to start a fund or if I wanted to get serious about understanding more about this process, how do I do it? How do I get a hold of you?
So
Where do I start?
let me give you the first step. Believe it or not, this is such a surprise what I'm going to tell you. The first step is take a piece of paper and at the top write down a number: 1 million, 3 million, 5 million. If you had that much money in a bank account, what would you do with it?
Hmm.
And if the answer is I don't know, this is not for you. But if you'd say, God, I have so much deal flow, I'd be buying these houses for 100 grand. I'd be buying them every single week, and I've got deal flow like crazy. I could chew up 2 million bucks so fast. Then you need to do this. This is something that you're the perfect person for it because you got the deal flow, the motivation, the knowledge, the skill set, you got the background, and this is something that you need to really ponder. So if that's the case, we have this incredible library of materials, and people can access it in one of two ways. They can either text the word asset, ASSET, to the town. They can text to number 72,000. So 72 and 3 zeros, the word asset. Or if they just prefer to just do email, they can go to syndicatefast.com, sign up, and they'll get our emails, our videos. They'll we're not going to spam you. We don't sell all kinds of stuff. The only thing that we do is we help people build funds and show them how to raise money. That's it. And help them really get clear about how this works. And once people sign up for that, there's a link to my calendar. They can reach out to me, and we can be in touch.
So I love that. Now, what about just wanting to learn more and to understand more about the process? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a book I can read?
We
Tell
have
me a
we have
little
a
bit
we
about
have
what
a
you have
we have
available.
a video series that is quite remarkable. Our library, it's probably got 150 different videos. What happens is that maybe like you, Verl, I'm not sure if you do this, and you've heard me probably talk about this, but people writing questions. Hey, Joel, what's the difference between a syndication and a fund? Hey, Joel, how much should we pay the investors? How do we do this? How do we do this? And I just answer them. And over the last couple of years, we've created 150 videos answering all sorts of questions from our people. And people literally binge watch these. They're 3 to 7 minutes long, and they just turn them on and they just watch one after the next after the next. And it's remarkable. But and then when they come to our symposium or whatever we do, they just know a lot of the basic stuff that they didn't know before.
I bet you're looking forward to having live symposiums again.
Yeah, we just finished a virtual one, and people really liked it. Apparently, it went very well. I enjoy it because I just like the camaraderie of getting together with people who are these aren't students to me. These are peers. These are deal makers. They may not be as far along as maybe some other people, but these are people who I become friends with them. I mean, we hang out together. We do stuff, and we end up with a lot in common. And then people trade deals. They do deals together. It's a very high level environment.
Well, I can't wait to get back as well. One of the things that I have to just let our listeners know, Joel has been just a tremendous inspiration, not only to me, but to so many other speakers. He leads a group of professional speakers that gets together once a week, and we just kind of share ideas and we brainstorm and we talk about what we can do and how do we pivot during this crazy pandemic. Most of these speakers, Joel, have made their living on stage. They get paid to speak to people. And when that spigot got turned off, there was a tremendous amount of fear. And I just have to publicly thank you and let you know how much I appreciated all the insight and all the sharing and all the things that you brought together, because it allowed me to make some significant changes in my business that have just been incredible this year. So thank you.
Well, listen, everybody shares. You've been a great share of the strategies that you've implemented, and everybody's learned from you too. So thank you very much.
And that's all I have, Joel, is I'll just give what I have to give. And at the end of the day, hopefully it makes a difference with somebody. And I know you feel the same way.
Yep.
On behalf of all of our listeners, a lot of interest. I think that we're going to continue this discussion off of the Facebook Live. Joel, we have a tremendous group of agents that are the professionals you talk about, that really understand the business, that see the opportunities. And I think we may be able to do some fun things together. So on behalf of Workman Success and our Workman Success family, Joel Block, thank you for being here. Bullseye Capital, please check them out. Download everything you can to learn everything you can about setting up your hedge funds. Let's see if we can go out there and create some real wealth, not just for ourselves, but for our heirs and our families. So thanks, everybody. And thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Verl.
If you are ready to level up your real estate business, set up a coaching consultation by sending an email to coach@workmansuccess.com. That's coach@workmansuccess.com.